W News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
The Bucks lose to the Grizzlies. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks lost at home, 132-119 to the Memphis Grizzlies. Milwaukee's now lost 4 of their last 5 games. The Bucks had the lead, but let it slip away. Head coach Doc Rivers.
I thought the game changed in the middle of the third quarter. I think we had a 10-point lead, had the ball on the side out, and turned the ball over, and they got a 3-point play. I thought that was a turning point of the game.
The Bucks are back at it tonight on the road in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. College hoops, Marquette losing at home over the weekend to UConn, 77-69. The Golden Eagles play St. John's tomorrow night. The Badgers beat Northwestern, 75-69. The Wildcats without their second leading scorer, Brooks Barnheiser, after he suffered a broken foot last week. Head coach Chris Collins.
The decision was made to shut it down. He's not going to be with us the rest of the year, but he left it all out there. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I love that kid.
That's Northwestern head coach Chris Collins. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A partly cloudy sky for tonight, lows near 5 to 10. Mostly cloudy for tomorrow, a high in the mid-teens. Mostly cloudy in the morning, then snow developing for Wednesday. Even some freezing rain mixed at times, high near 30. Current temp is 30.
The 2025 draft is almost here, bringing in guests from around the world for this once-in-a-lifetime event. Ready to turn your home into a revenue powerhouse? Simple Life Hospitality makes it easy to rent your home and provides expert, locally managed care, backed by over 50 years of experience. All guests are fully vetted for your peace of mind, so don't miss out. Partner with Simple Life Hospitality today. Visit simpleliferentals.com and make the most of this unforgettable event. That's simpleliferentals.com.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Maggie Dawn.
At 3 o'clock, I'm joined by Supreme Court candidate and current Dane County Judge Susan Crawford. We discuss Brad Schimmel.
Broadcasting live from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay, this is Night Light with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who never leaves the house without wearing a cup, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome to Night Light, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that lead-in, Todd Michaels. Conrad, how are you?
I'm good. I got to say happy birthday to my mom.
Hey, happy birthday to Paula.
Yes.
Can you say how old she is, or are you not permitted?
I am not permitted. Okay, actually, she turned 30 today.
Wow. That makes you, what, comfortably 9?
Somewhere
happy
around
birthday.
there. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Paula. In Florida, right?
Yep.
So she is having a happy birthday.
Yeah, they went to Universal Studios today. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of exciting. Where are they living now? They were in Key West.
Oh, they're in Ocala.
The folks are in, oh, yeah. Oh, that's quite a bit farther north.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They
could get snow there, conceivably. Did they get that snow a few weeks ago?
I don't believe so, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's... I saw the some videos of that on Instagram and stuff, and they didn't know how to react. What is this?
It's sort of paralyzing. Well, happy birthday to Paul. That's great. One of our favorite texters and one of Conrad's favorite mothers. So great to hope you have a great day. This is crazy because we have a good show tonight, by the way. First of all, this is a great way to kick off the week. Great guests this week, folks. I'm so glad you guys are tuning in because we are in for 6 more weeks of winter, apparently, thanks to Punxsutawney Phil, who can kiss my you-know-what, frankly, for bringing us 6 more weeks of winter, if you believe that. On cue, we got like 5 inches of snow last night. I had to shovel really for the first time this year, which I haven't even done yet. I got to go back and do the walk after my show. My buddy plows my driveway for me. But man, what a kick in the teeth.
Yeah. This morning, I was about to go to the gym, and my motivation was at 100% then. And then I just look outside the window. It went to 0 immediately.
Right.
After I saw that
I know
there was cars just full of snow, I'm like, okay, I don't want to go outside anymore.
But you know what? Brittany Merlot was on the show last Wednesday or Thursday, and she said we're going to get winter.
Yeah.
She's correct. She and Phil teamed up on this one. But anyway, we have snow. It's very beautiful, and the temperature's not too terrible outside. But I did not have much of a weekend, I will say. You know what? Hold on. Before we move on, let's do, I think Punxsutawney Phil is our question of the night, Conrad. So let's roll it, baby.
Let's talk about the question.
Okay, question.
Question. Question.
Pregunta.
Question.
Question.
Okay, I have a question. Questions? This question.
Domanda. Question.
Question.
Questions.
Are you happy with Punxsutawney Phil and 6 more weeks of winter? It might sound like an easy question. Most people would probably say no, but I am curious because there are people like we talked about last week. I have friends in Marinette, love winter. They do these ice boat races out on the bay, on Green Bay, close to where I live. They have dirt track car racing or whatever it is. It's in the snow, but it's on ice, and they have car races. And I bet there's 200 people that pull their cars out on the ice to watch it. Some people love winter. I don't. So that is tonight's question. Are you happy with Punxsutawney Phil? And are you happy with 6 more weeks of winter? Let us know. And if so, how are you going to get through it? You can share that too. Do you like to ice fish? I hope so. We have a lot of winter here. You got to do something. I really feel like I should take up cross-country skiing. Not a downhill guy. I don't want to break a bone, but I don't mind being outside when it's not too cold. But let us know how you feel about Punxsutawney Phil's prediction. Groundhog Day was yesterday, and that's our question of the night. 855-752-4842, 855-752. You can have as much fun with this one as you want, folks. You can curse Punxsutawney Phil. He's kind of a mythical creature anyway. It's not going to get back to him. But let us know how you feel. Conrad, how can people watch the radio?
Yeah, so on Facebook, we're under WISS, WGBW, and Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. On YouTube, it's Civic Media or WGBW. And on Twitter, it is Civic Media or WGBW.
Very well said. All right, so let us know. Be part of the show. Love it when you guys are part of the show. You can text us on the app. That's always easy, or on the stream. Text us any way you can, but just text us. Let us know what you think. Fun show tonight. We have comedian Eli Wills will be here at 6:35. He's a Madison-based stand-up comic. He also does radio. He hosts a podcast that's comedy-related. The guy is all things comedy. So we'll talk to Eli at 6:35. And then our pal Frank Anderson will be here at 7:20. Frank is a producer, a musician, a director. He's a very talented musician. He plays with Butch Vig, and he's in quite a few of Butch's bands. And he also founded the website, one of my favorite websites to look at. And you should too, since you're a Wisconsinite, Wisconsinology.com. Frank's got so much great information about Wisconsin. Tall tales, interesting facts, funny stories, scary stories. Wisconsinology.com. Frank will be here at 7:20. We're going to talk a little bit about Bob Dylan, since Frank has a music background, and we're going to talk about cockfighting. It's something that had to be done eventually on this show, folks. I can't go 2 years without talking about cockfighting. Before you get too excited, Conrad, it is illegal.
Yeah, I figured.
You ever placed money on bird fighting or any kind of chicken fighting? Cockfighting?
I don't think I should.
You shouldn't say?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say.
Michael Vick did. Cost him handsomely, too.
Yes, it did.
It's only been outlawed in the United States. I think Louisiana was the last state it was legal in, and that was like up until 2008. And I'm sure when they took that away, people were flipping out, taking our rights away.
Nothing like going to a Saturday night cockfight.
Saturday night at the cockfights. What could be better? So we'll talk. And Frank, the reason I wanted to have Frank on, I always like to have Frank on, but his brother owned one. They grew up in the Philippines, where I think it originated. It was either the Philippines or China. But we'll talk to Frank. I got a lot of stuff to ask Frank. We'll do some Bob Dylan stuff. And we'll talk about cockfighting. So it's about time. Anyway, I had a really weird weekend. First of all, I had 3 comics that have been on this show. Johnny Beaner, John Egan, and Jessica Phillips all came to Marinette to do my annual football fundraiser comedy night. And I don't really have anything to do with football. My kids didn't even play, but the local coach at Marinette High School, Nate Anderson, and before him, his predecessor, asked me to find comedians to bring up to town to raise money, and they do a fundraiser. And it's a really fun night, and this night was no exception. Saturday night, we had Jessica Phillips, John Egan, and Johnny Beaner, and it was great. It was a really good turnout, so I'll look forward to having all of them on the show at some point to recap their wonderful time in Marinette. Johnny and I ended up getting a cheeseburger at a bowling alley. So that's how glamorous showbiz can be, folks, when you're in Marinette, Wisconsin. And I had to get out of the house, too, because have you ever had a roommate that was sick? You've probably never really cared for anyone that was sick, like unless it's like a parent maybe or...
No, I had a roommate for 2.5 years in Milwaukee, so...
Okay.
There was one time where I lived with 7 people. I don't know if I said that.
I think you did.
My first year after the dorms. And that was when COVID was going around. And
so you lived with as many people as possible just to ensure you'd get it.
And everyone got sick in like the same week. Besides me, it was the weirdest thing.
That's hilarious. Not hilarious, but hilarious for you. Good for you. Yeah. My wife has the flu, and this is her 3rd illness of the winter. And at first when someone gets sick, you're like, oh, honey, what can I do? Take care of you, take you to the doctor, make you food. The second time it's like, oh, I can't believe this is happening again, but okay, what do you need? This time she's caught me rolling my eyes like twice when she's asked me. I'm like, okay, 3rd time, really? I mean, love is love, but come on.
She can't control it.
She can't. I know that. And she's a teacher, and she's got like this immune system of iron, except for this year. I don't know what is going on. And one time I got it. And you know what? I don't feel that bad about rolling my eyes because my wife is vindictive when it comes to her illnesses. She remembers who gave her what when. She'll go, don't you remember that in 2006 when your dad gave me that cold? I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, our daughter, remember the time she gave me, smallpox or whatever it is? She just remembers everything. And I'm like, you can't do that. First of all, you have no proof of where you got something. Having said that, I'm pretty sure when I was sick a few weeks ago, it was from my wife. So there's a lot going on out there. There's there's whooping cough. Do you even know what that is, Conrad?
It sounds like a bad cough.
Yeah, it's something like that. There's whooping cough, there's RSV, influenza A and B, COVID. What's the other? Oh, norovirus is going around. It's insane.
That one looks scary.
I used to know more about norovirus than I did. Doesn't it just give you isn't it a stomach thing? You just got to go to the bathroom a lot?
So I think it was last week, Duke was playing men's basketball, and one guy actually threw up on the court while he was playing. So they assumed that he had it.
Gross. And everybody else that's like highly contagious, isn't it?
It's like, it was like right on the, like right by the like courtside seats too. They had like, I don't know, the whole staff put towels down and stuff.
Oh man.
Like they didn't have a mop or something, so they used towels.
Everybody else clean up?
Yeah.
That's awful. I think the schools need to be cleaned more too because kids get sick. My wife said too, she's like, I got 6 kids out or 4 kids out. Like, I don't know. It's terrible. Anyway, I'm knocking on wood. I'm staying on a different floor of our house. I really don't want it. It looks awful. I mean, she isn't like serious. It's like that lower back. You just know it's the flu. But I took her to the doctor today and they more or less confirmed it. So there you go. Hey, that's an exciting thing to say right out of the gate here to cheer people up. It is February 3rd. I hope everybody had a great Groundhog Day. Did anybody watch Groundhog Day in commemoration? We talked about it a lot last week. We had Rick Overton on the show, and then we had Terry Barr on her birthday. We had her on the show. We were talking a little bit about Groundhog Day. Big news in show business. Beyonce won Country Music Album of the Year.
Did you see how surprised she looked when she won that?
I actually did not see it when it was announced. No, was she surprised?
I did. I didn't watch it. I saw a video of it, and yeah, she was super surprised. Honestly, I think Post Malone should have won it. I think he had a way better album.
So you're familiar with the albums, like you know the music and stuff?
I love Post Malone, so maybe I'm biased, but
yeah, I think everyone was surprised. I mean, she won Album of the Year and Country Music Album of the Year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read a friend of mine's Facebook post in regard to that, which is funny. I'll do that coming up next. And then I'm going to complain about using a half a bar of soap. You're not going to want to miss that. It's Nightlight with Pete Schwaba on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Walking with a love that's so, so fine. Never to be mine, no matter how I try. You'll never walk alone.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Matinee on Air.
The Todd Alba Show.
The argument from my former party has been, it's not the guns, it's mental health. Well, no worries, folks. Governor Evers has got you covered. He introduced a plan to put millions of dollars into mental health, particularly for young kids. And the Republicans in the chamber did not clap. If you can't be it for kids, then what the heck can you be for? Jeepers, criminy.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Carmelo Anthony for the Bail Project.
Bad news, you've been arrested. Good news, you're innocent until proven guilty. If you can pay your bail, good news, you go home to wait your trial. If you can't, sorry, you go to jail to wait. But sure, you still presumed innocent. But since you can't afford bail, you've lost your freedom. That's not right. And that's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
There are solutions to the rot in the Supreme Court, and it's a congressional binding code of ethics. There are solutions to the corruption. It's a constitutional amendment to declare that money isn't speech and corporations aren't people, and we can do this. These are things that Americans agree on no matter our party. We all know that presidents aren't kings.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Out here in the middle of these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. That's how it feels when you're struggling with your mental health. But you don't have to feel alone. Find more information at loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen.
This is on me. That's my bad. That's a Bill Haley tune called Joey's Song. And they have a Joey's Song event in Madison every year, a fundraiser. That's this huge thing. And Frank Anderson is a big part of it. So I was going to have that on when Frank is here. So maybe we can replay it. There's no rules to this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In regard to Beyonce winning Country Music Album of the Year, which I thought was hilarious. I don't follow country music. I don't follow Beyonce. But I know that there's been controversy about it. And my friend John Bush, who's a comedian from Minneapolis, posted this on Facebook. He said, people losing their mind at Beyonce's win is hilarious. Hey, y'all thinking she needs to stay in her lane? Please just Google the history of the banjo in America. You'll see that music is not yours alone, but all of ours. It is funny when people lose their minds over something so inconsequential. Like you just said, you're a fan. You thought this guy should win, or you wish this guy. That's an opinion. We all have that. But people losing their minds, and if you go to Twitter, a lot of it has to do with her race, or just the fact that whatever, she's new to the scene, whatever it is, you cannot. I mean, it's just not worth that much anger, folks. And it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't prevent you from listening to what you want to listen to or that which makes you happy. But I get it. I kind of laugh sometimes. I'm like, this person's priorities are completely off beat, off base. They're just off.
I mean, if the biggest thing in your life is going after someone's win. It's kind of crazy.
It is, though. There are people that I told you a few weeks ago when Elon Musk and Mark Cuban were going at it on Twitter, and Musk had all these Twitter people coming to his defense, attacking Mark Cuban because he was disagreeing with Elon Musk. That's your identity in life. Choosing which billionaire you're going to go to bat for while not using your own picture or likeness on Twitter. Doing it all in anonymity. It's really weird.
Speaking of Mark Cuban, what did you think about that trade that happened in the NBA?
You know, I just glanced at it. And here's my thing about when a trade happens in the NBA. LeBron, on some lists, has passed Michael Jordan as the greatest player ever. I think most people still say Jordan, but Jordan, with every passing year, he gets pushed farther back in people's memories, and it's LeBron. No one ever beat Jordan when they made it to the finals. No one ever even took him to a Game 7. LeBron is great. I actually like LeBron off the court more than I like Jordan off the court, but that legacy is intact as far as I'm concerned. So even if LeBron wins, what has he got? Four?
Yeah,
rings?
he's got 4 rings. I think
he's in his 40s.
Is the longevity that he has in this league.
Yeah, and you know what? In terms of his greatness, you mean?
Yeah.
That could be, but I don't know that was ever judged or used as a barometer before.
No, it definitely wasn't.
Jordan hung it up, played baseball for 2 years, came back, hung it up, then played for the Wizards. And, you know, not to make excuses again, I don't care. It doesn't affect me, Cowboy Carter. But, yeah, there's no question LeBron's great. And he's bigger. He's a different player. But I think my guess is he wants a couple more rings to be more in that conversation.
Well, now they got Luka Doncic, and that's a great pickup for the Lakers.
He's really getting the hang of this basketball thing.
Just a little bit.
He's getting there. So we've got our question of the night is, do you agree with Punxsutawney? How do you feel? Really, the question is, how do you feel about 6 more weeks of winter? Are you happy? Do you want to strangle Punxsutawney Phil? I mean, open your eyes, Phil. That's what I'm saying. So that's our question of the night. And Mark from Prairie du Sac says, this is not related to that, but what we were talking about before. Norovirus symptoms, severe vomiting and diarrhea. Yeah. And I think, Mark, it's highly contagious, if I remember reading correctly. Yeah, nobody wants norovirus. There's another one. What's the one you get from a mosquito, though? That's the one that really freaks me out.
Because we have so many mosquitoes.
It's terrible, and it's not. I don't know. I'll Google it. We'll Google it during the break. Annie from Watertown says Beyonce new to country music. Okay, not true because her history, but new to genre professionally and commercially, and she aced it, all in caps. Says something about the current state of country music. Well, that's interesting too. And again, I'm not a country music fan necessarily. I'm not a hater. I like some country music. But if a newcomer can come in and win Best Album, maybe that does say something about country music. I don't know. You know what's so funny is I thought Post Malone was a rapper.
No, he's been doing every different genre,
crossing genres. Yeah,
like,
that's
and
cool too.
That says some, like he did the same thing that Beyonce did. He hasn't had a country album before, and he did it. So
this was his first country album.
Yeah,
because I know he's collaborated with like Taylor Swift, and that's really interesting. We're getting a lot of texts. I got to make sure I'm not going back too far. Tom from Jackson says, yes, we need the snow. That's true. There's always some moral citizen that puts me in my place when it comes to the snow, whether it's Brittany Merlot or Tom from Jackson. You're right. I can't complain. Bring on the snow. We've already got it. It's not like I know 60-degree weather's right around the corner. So, yes, bring the snow. Mark from Prairie du Sac is another. He says you can get at fromagination on the square or underground meats on Willie Street. Can come in 3-ounce portions that are perfect for a pot of stew. I saw it featured on Wisconsin Foodie. Was this meant for us? 16 minutes ago. I think it was season 14, episode 3 of Beef. Mark's using all these words I can't pronounce. And I think they're words that are specific to Wisconsin Foodie. So I think that's Thank you for the text, Mark. I'm sorry I'm massacring it, but we've had Arthur Ursink on the show. Great guest. Tom from Jackson also says cross-country skiing is a lot of work. That's true. It's a great workout. That's why I want to do it, Tom. I need the exercise. Annie from Watertown says, fall of 75, senior year of high school. I wished for a year with no winter. Lots of driving around then. I think of that so often. Paid for good country skis. They've become unused. Glad I gave up snowmobiling in 1977. All right. And Monica says, she's in Mount Horeb, says, one plus about the prediction is that I feel like less of a sloth if I spend more time binge watching shows. Yes. When it's crappy outside. There are fewer legitimate excuses for not being a couch potato when it's nice out. Love when a fellow couch potato goes to bat for the rest of his couch potatoes. Thank you very much, Monica. We'll get to the rest of your text coming up shortly after the news. Eli Wills will be here, a comedian based in Madison. He'll talk about Willie Street, too. This is Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
From Hobart to Bay Settlement, 97.9 WGBW. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Respiratory illnesses are increasing in Wisconsin. The Department of Health and Human Services says flu hospitalizations are the highest they've been in 7 years. The DHS says it's not too late to get a flu, COVID-19, or RSV vaccination. Everyone should also follow recommendations for washing hands and staying home when sick. A 67-year-old Tachita man died Saturday when the UTV he was riding in fell through the ice in Lake Winnebago. Fond du Lac County Dispatch received the call just before 12:30 Saturday afternoon that 2 people were pulled out of the water north of Lakeside Park. The 56-year-old driver and the passenger were taken to the hospital and life-saving measures were performed. However, the passenger died. The driver was treated for hypothermia. This is Super Bowl week. That's super spelled S-O-U-P-E-R. Super Bowl 12 will raise funds all this week for the new community shelter. From now through Sunday, area restaurants will give a portion of their proceeds from soup sales to the new community shelter. Shannon Cohen with the shelter says this is a good way to feed yourself, help the community, and help the persons in your community who need it the most.
Kind of a win-win. So, we have people that, follow the new community shelter and are very interested in what we do. So they go out and then buy stuff from these restaurants, and that helps them out, which is then helping us out, which, we love to partner with the community because the community is so huge in helping us.
And Cohen says it's automatic. You don't have to tell the restaurant you want the proceeds to go to the new community shelter. All you have to do is order soup. See our story at WGBW.FM for a list of participating restaurants. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. If you're a fan of the video game Fortnite and Sabrina Carpenter's music, this might be the most earth-shattering news you've ever heard, so have a seat. The pop star is in talks to have her image featured in the game Fortnite, according to Forbes, which reports the game will use her music and develop a skin in her likeness. Other artists that have been featured in Fortnite include Eminem, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, and Metallica. I still love watching people do the Fortnite dance. Selma Blair is back to work. The actress is the star of films like Cruel Intentions, The Sweetest Thing, and A Guy Thing, co-wrote by yours truly. Did you really think I was above making a shameless plug? Blair announced in 2018 that she was dealing with multiple sclerosis. According to Variety, the actress has signed on to 3 new film projects, including Stay Forte, which is the story of the 3 Israeli hostages taken by Hamas October 7th of last year. No real details were given about her MS, other than the actress says she's feeling much better. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A partly cloudy sky for tonight, lows near 5 to 10. Mostly cloudy for tomorrow, a high in the mid-teens. Mostly cloudy in the morning, then snow developing for Wednesday. Even some freezing rain mixed at times. High near 30. Current temp is 30.
Hey, it's Amanda, and we all know that Northeast Wisconsin has some of the best events around, but trying to find them all can be tricky. So here at WGBW, we decided to do the work for you. Prevent boredom on any night by going to WGBW.fm and click events in the top right corner. You'll never have to spend forever scrolling to find out what's going on in your area. And if you got an event to share, hit us up by emailing info@WGBW.fm. We can work together to have real news and great conversation while giving you the 411 on what's happening in New Wisco.
Matt Nair on air.
Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political editor.
No court in the country came closer to overturning the 2020 election results than the conservative majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And we have Brad Schimmel, who's been siding with January 6 rioters. So if you want your vote to count going forward, show up and vote on April 1st. Let's channel that energy into the Wisconsin Supreme Court race.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. On the next Mino and the Mayor, get ready for laughter at 21 after.
A snowplow driving by. Jim from Kenosha says, which one is longer, if he sees his shadow or if he doesn't? I thought it was if he sees his shadow, we have 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah.
So there you go, Jim. We break all the big stories here. Keep those texts coming. How do you feel about 6 more weeks of winter? I don't like it. Conrad doesn't like it. The snowplows driving by probably love it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Keeps them working. At 7:20, Frank Anderson will be here. He's the founder of Wisconsinology.com. Definitely worth a look if you're into all things Wisconsin. Frank knows more about this state than I think probably anyone I've ever met. He's also an award-winning producer, musician, director, and one of our favorites here at Nightlight. He'll be along at 7:20. Right now, we're about to welcome a new guest. I just met this young man recently. He's a Madison-based stand-up comedian and soon to be a Nightlight favorite, I am sure. Joining us over the stream is Eli Wills. Eli, how are you?
I'm here, Pete. I love it. I love this technology, man. I'm trying to, always nervous that I'm going to make it into the studio, and there I am. It's like I'm sitting in the chair next to you. How you doing?
You're here, buddy. It's good to meet you, and I am saying your name correctly, right?
Eli Wills. It's
all right.
You nailed it like a professional. I know. I get a lot of Wilts. A lot of people like to throw the German T in there. So, really? Eli Wills nailed it.
Wills is better. I would stick with that in case you had any
good stage name.
illusions.
I was going to say Schwaba's got to be a pretty good stage name, man. I would have loved to bring you up on stage. Schwaba. A lot of fun.
I don't know if it was or not. It definitely, I think it's memorable on some level, but I don't think it's a very sexy name per se or an easy Schwaba. I've heard Schwaba, Schwab. It's hard to. I have to spell it for everyone when I talk to customer service. That's all I know.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't know if comics are supposed to be sexy, so we'll take it as we go.
My fair skin and name Schwaba certainly take me out of that category.
Yes.
Listen, it's great to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start a relationship here, man. Let's get you known and get you famous to Nightlight listeners. So you're from Cincinnati. You're a Madison-based stand-up comedian. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Yeah, so I like you said, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I actually eventually moved up to Madison via way of Indiana for some work. And once I moved up to Madison, it's where I started doing stand-up comedy. I think a little ignorantly, I was like one of those guys who was like, well, Chris Farley's from Madison. I'm in Madison now. I might as well pick up the old comedy gene. And I moved here probably about 2019. I didn't start doing comedy until very poorly timed. I think I took my first improv class about 6 months before the pandemic.
Oh.
And so, it ended up working out really well. Started out doing improv, have done a bunch of improv since then and before, but it's through kind of that pandemic break where I got to meet a bunch of the Madison comedians, start writing in different ways, and it's I say it, obviously a lot of terrible things about the pandemic. The good thing about it was I think a lot of comics use this time to move on to bigger and better places. So a lot of the folks who were in Madison moved to bigger cities. And once I was here, there was a ton of opportunity to kind of get your feet wet and get going.
No kidding. I hadn't heard that. That's pretty interesting. So they
Yeah.
left Madison for bigger cities because of the pandemic, or just they thought that was a good opportunity to go pay cheaper rent in a bigger city or something, or what?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of people just like, as a comic, it's in a Midwest city. I know we all go back and forth on this. I'm like, do you move? When do you move? What should you be doing to kind of get those bigger opportunities? I don't think it's quite as necessary to move as it once was, but I think a lot of people, had those months to year of pondering what they wanted to do with their comedy career. I think took the opportunity to kind of take the plunge into the bigger markets. And I think a little bit of like, well, nothing's going on here. Is there stuff going on other places? I think folks did it and kind of left a little bit of a vacuum, not a huge one. There's obviously still a scene here, but enough to kind of to get going and get at some stuff.
It seems like, when I did stand-up in the 90s, I started in Chicago, and there was enough work where you never had to leave town. I mean, that's just a big enough city where there was, and it was during the boom, so you could stay in town all year. You didn't have to work the road. I kind of liked working the road. I was a young guy like you. I wanted to get out and see what was going on. But tell me about Madison compared to, you kind of just did, but elaborate if you would. Is it a good place to start? Like where you are right now, is it a good place to get your chops doing stand-up? And is there enough stage time in a town the size of Madison?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's obviously it's all I know, so I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best places in the country that if you are looking to start doing stand-up comedy, I think it's one of the best places to kind of get going and get your feet wet. The reasons for that, obviously the big one is Comedy on State is downtown, one of the premier venues in the country, and one of the premier things about that venue is their Wednesday night open mic. They run an open mic on Wednesday nights that they curate really well. They get a really good crowd for. So I always say it's like, hey, the first time I did comedy, within the first month, I was doing a show for 200 plus people, which is unheard of. It's unreal. You realistically looking back on, shouldn't have put me on that stage. That was an insane thing to do, but they do it every week. And so it helps you, one, get used to doing those types of shows and getting connected to great comics. But as a result of it, there's kind of been a great local ecosystem that has built up to kind of feed that system. So there's a lot of great local show producers. There's an open mic at least, every night of the week. And then you kind of talked about it. That proximity to working the road, kind of getting used to that culture is really good. You're driving distance to Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis. There's a ton of great bar shows all throughout the entire state of Wisconsin that you can kind of hit. Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, all kind of within this, 3-hour driving range. So you got your home base, you got your home station to go, do really good comedy at a very high professional level. And then you got places to go out and spread it out throughout the country.
That's great. And you also have Minneapolis, 2-3 hours away, to another great comedy town. So
Exactly.
Madison actually is a really good location.
Yeah.
Everyone I know that's come out of there, I mean, there's such good comedians. I just worked with Johnny Beaner headlined a fundraiser for me.
One of the best.
Saturday, and oh my gosh, yeah, he's been on the show before too. But I'm a huge fan of a lot of Madison comedians. But let's talk about your connection to one who was on Nightlight just a couple of weeks ago, Olivia Witt. You kind of in your bio gave her credit for you starting to do stand up. So tell us about that if you would.
Well, yeah, well, it's really funny. It's a shout out to you. Obviously, every time I do these interviews like these, I like to go and listen to an episode beforehand, and I'm scrolling through and I'm like, oh, I know that person. That's Olivia Witt. That's one of my really good friends. And she started stand up before me. We met each other in Madison, actually in an improv class at Monkey Business Institute, which is one of the improv studios here in Madison. And we were actually, along with us, Olivia and another friend of mine, Ryan Kushner, we were in this competition called Mirth Madness, which was like an improv March Madness competition during that March of the pandemic. So you're supposed to do improv, you get voted off, all that type of stuff. It was a lot of fun. Of course, gets shut down during the pandemic. Bad timing to be doing anything stage related. So Ryan, Olivia, and I, we just were like, hey guys, by the way, our Tuesdays seem to be free now for the foreseeable future. Do you want to hop on Zoom calls and just start writing stuff? So we did that. We started writing stuff. Ryan kind of went out on a limb and started submitting us to festivals. We got a little bit of buzz that way, which was really, really fun. So we, formalized it, formed this stand-up group or this sketch comedy group. called Grapefruit Bubbly, and we, featured at Toronto Sketch Fest, got to do all these fun virtual comedy things.
Wow.
But as a result of that, once stuff started coming back, stand-up came back quicker than improv. And so Olivia was one of the first people to be like, hey, you've done this sketch writing, you've done this improv stuff. Have you ever considered trying stand-up? And she invited me out to an open mic, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's great. You had so I forgot what I was going to ask you. Tell us about Silly Street. This is a newsletter.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. And then I have a couple more questions because I'm kind of fascinated that you seem to like to talk about comedy just as much as you like to do it. So tell us a little bit about Silly Street.
Well, I think that's what anybody who eventually becomes a comedian starts with is you're a fan almost of like any art form. You tend to be a fan before you can do it. And I think about that a lot because I think one of the things that someone always told me when I first started out doing comedy is you're clearly a fan of this. Your taste for comedy is going to outpace your ability for a very long time. And so you're going to struggle with doing comedy because you're going to think you're doing a bad job because you like it so much and you want to do cool stuff. And your ability to do it is going to be less than your ability to, actually achieve those results. And so I kind of taken that as like almost of like how can I, study this in a way? How can I take being very silly seriously in a way where I can study the people that are great, study the people that are having a great job with it. And one of the ways I do that is through this Silly Street newsletter. It's Silly Street. Folks in Madison will recognize the pun of the famous Willie Street neighborhood down here. And it's a comedy newsletter where I highlight all of the local events kind of happening in Madison, but specifically in that Willie Street neighborhood. And then I use it to profile, famous comics that I like and have done something interesting, but also local up and comers who I think are, doing interesting things here in Madison that I think deserve a little bit more of a highlight on them.
That's pretty cool too, because the people who are already established have no trouble typically getting press or all that. So I think it's great that you focus on newcomers as well.
Yeah.
Eli, you shared some clips. We're going to hear a little bit of Eli's stand-up right now. So Eli Wills is my guest. He's a Madison-based stand-up comedian and improver, sketch. We'll get into all that stuff too. He's a very busy guy, but here is a sample of Eli's comedy.
I just couldn't imagine blacking out at a place that I've paid photographers to be at. It's like, oh God, I got so drunk last night. Hopefully no one has a high definition photographs of that. Did I do anything stupid? Yeah, man, you got married. All right, guys, I know a lot of us are here on dates with our significant others. We can laugh at things we don't agree with. My girlfriend hates that joke. No. The wedding was back in my hometown, and I like going back to my hometown. But occasionally people will ask me for advice on things to do there, not realizing they're asking the teenage version of myself that question. It's like they'll come up to me and they'll go like, hey, Eli, what's the best bar in Cincinnati, Ohio? It's like, oh, I don't know. Garrett's Basement? We got a specialty cocktail known as Warm Bud Lights. And the anxiety of his mother's footsteps. Hey, Eli, where's the best place to get weed in Cincinnati, Ohio? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Garrett's backyard? His mom hates to sell it in the house. Who's the best bartender in Cincinnati, Ohio? Garrett's older brother. He sells us hot vodka in a Gatorade bottle for $20. It's the deal of the century.
I love my favorite kind of jokes whenever I watch stand-up now are the kind where the audience isn't so sure at first, and then the more you talk, and you say a joke and it just kind of builds. And it's like it takes them a second to get it. I just love that.
Well, and I love that joke too because it's it get the end of it where you're really pulling the rug out from under them. They're not so sure at the start. They think they figure it out.
Right.
You change it up right at the last minute anyway to get them to so confident they're going to yell out, and then you keep it at them. So. And I said, I love jokes. Like I said, the joke I like a lot because it's one of those things where it's a punchline that doesn't make sense out of context. I think that's like a thing that I like when you can write something up where it's like, you had to write this, you had to set them up to get where they wanted to be to get the result of that joke. Garrett's Basement isn't funny in any other context except for that.
Well, I would think that whole bit would go over very well in Wisconsin because we all know a Garrett.
Yeah.
So I think, especially with the drinking that takes place in this state, I think you're probably okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any gigs coming up, Eli?
Yeah. Well, said
should know about?
I think the main one is I hope hopefully the people who listen to the Olivia episode were paying attention too, because she's actually performing on this show. It's our next Silly Street show at Working Draft Beer Company down here in Madison. It's a show I run every month. It's kind of my flagship show of producing, and it's February 13th. So right the Thursday right before Valentine's Day. So if you're looking for a hot date, no better place to do it than comedy at Working Draft. Yeah.
And that's a great show, too. Olivia will be there. She was a lot of fun to talk to on this show. We'll talk more with Eli after a very short break here. Maybe you could give us those dates again and where that is. And I want to ask Eli, he's also doing improv and sketch. So we'll talk about that, too, and discuss what kind of scene is happening in Madison in regard to other forms of comedy. It's Pete Schwaba and Nite Lite on the Civic Media Radio Network.
We're gonna need a soft, sweet little girl's talk.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Keeping you connected to your local community with good news and great conversation. Here's Terry Barr with the Civic Media Radio Network.
Landon Jones could make his type of art anywhere, but he chooses to stay in Northeast Wisconsin, where he's making a name for himself through his Green Bay company, Respect. He recently took a leap and created a commercial for Doritos.
It's called That's Bold. I was sitting on the couch, I was eating some Doritos, I just had one in my hand, I was looking at it. I just try and think of different scenarios playing out. You know, I'm just enjoying this whole process, even in this competition.
A competition leading Landon to the top 25 out of thousands. And a possibility his ad could air during the Super Bowl. His story supports make art where your heart is. And for him, that's home. Until next time, I'm Terry Barr.
I am a Civil War reenactor, but I'm just a Civil War reenactor for how it happened in Wisconsin. So I just like to get dressed up, smoke a pipe, and wait for word from the front.
That is the comedy of Eli Wills, who is my guest here on Nite Lite. He is Madison-based, and he also does a comedy newsletter called Silly Street and produces a monthly, once-a-month comedy show at the Working Draft Beer Company. The next show will be on February, is it 13th or 15th?
13th. I think we're before the 13th, whatever the Thursday before.
Okay.
Valentine's
and Olivia
Day
will be there, so that
yes,
sounds like
will.
a really fun show. So let's talk about, you've been to several comedy. I'm kind of surprised, like you've only been doing this 4 years, and you've got quite a few things. It seems like you pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe comedy. Like whether it's stand-up, sketch, improv, writing this newsletter, producing shows. What do you like doing better, producing comedy shows and bringing other people into the fold, or actually performing?
Oh, I love I love performing. I love producing. I love all of it, or else I wouldn't do all of it. I would say people always the thing that's weird is I always get more nervous producing than I do performing. I think producing you want obviously you want everybody to put on a good show. You want everything to go great. There's no more nerve-wracking feeling than the 45 minutes before a show and the seats aren't quite as full as you want them to be, and you're hoping ticket sales aren't quite what you wanted to do, and you're hoping the people turn up because you're putting yourself out there doing stand up. These are jokes I've written. This is stuff I'm confident in. You got to be confident in the strangers to put butts in the seats, and that always makes me nervous. I want people to, if they pay money for a show, I want to make sure they have a good show. So
That's really interesting, and you're right. If the comics don't do well, that is a reflection on you. Or if you have a heckler or someone who gives a comedian that maybe is a friend of yours a hard time, that's kind of a reflection on you. You're kind of like the middleman there in a way.
Yeah.
I understand how that could be nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Talk about you just said before you went to the Montreal. Was it the Montreal?
Oh,
Sketch
Toronto.
Fest?
Toronto
Or
Sketch Fest.
Toronto.
Yeah.
What's that like for people who haven't been to a comedy festival? What's that experience like?
Well, listen, it's a little bit like summer camp for comics is the way that I always like to joke about it, because it is this situation where you've got all of these venues all around town. Usually, there's a bunch of comics in town who are kind of bouncing around to all of these different shows, and it typically what people do is it's good for networking, but it's a great way to kind of get your name out there in venues. Particularly people in my stage of my career where I don't have a ton of legit fans who are coming to sell out stadiums in, Toronto, Canada for me. It's a great way to kind of get out and meet people and meet producers and meet comics from these other areas throughout the country. Because like you said, I'm sure when you started in Chicago, the stage time is there in Chicago to stay siloed, but you meet all the same people doing all the same thing. It's a great way to go and meet other people throughout the country.
It is. And I'll tell you, I was the only comedy festival I was ever at. I was invited to the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal. I was a new face.
Oh, heck
in
yeah.
1997. New face to everybody else, at least. And
Dude, I'm always so surprised those new faces. It's always guys who've been doing it forever. They're like, who's the new faces? And I'm like, yeah. So this new guy I just found out is a 15-year vet of the industry.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much how it was. But when you get up there, there's all this pressure going in where people on the flight up and then on the van from the airport to the hotel in a city you've never been to before. And you've got these managers saying, oh, you'll definitely get a development deal. This is the place when you're. And there was 30 new faces and 2 or 3 guys got development deals. And the rest of us got 5 to 10 business cards from potential managers.
Yeah.
It was a good experience, but that's nerve-wracking too. Do you get nervous before you go up when something is at stake? Like you said before, you don't really get that nervous when you go on stage, or you're more nervous when you're producing something. But what's it like when there's something really at stake for you as a comedian?
Yeah, I mean, that's when the nerves really happen. Because just to put it in context, I'm also a member of Atlas Improv Company, which is a place I do shows at, 4 times a weekend. I'm at Comedy on State all the time. Those venues, when you're at them, you do it all the time. You kind of, you have the normal stage nerves, but you're in your element. These are places that you're used to performing at, and you can kind of go and crush it and do your thing. It's when you get into those, you're going to a venue in, a new city that you've never been to before. You're trying to, for the most time, someone has booked you off of a clip. So they've seen you online, but they might not have met you or seen you in person, which is clearly a totally different experience for how you take in comedy. So you want to make sure that you're almost nervous of being like, you took a chance on me. I want to make sure you didn't screw up. I don't want you to, I don't want you to look like an idiot, like you made a dumb decision for booking me. I did a festival in Bozeman, Montana. And after the first night, one of the guys that booked me was like, hey, no one else on this festival wanted to book you, but I put I wanted to book you. I was the one who put my thumb on the scale to get you on. And I was like, you didn't need to tell me that, man. Now I'm super nervous that if I screw this up, they're going to think you have bad taste.
It could just be a humble brag too, or something.
Yeah.
We've got a text here from the 608. Anna says, Pete, Eli is mentioned in the January 2025 issue of Madison Magazine about the Madison comedy scene. He is mentioned as one of 6 Madison indie producers. Hey, that's pretty cool. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was really awesome. It's one of those things where I didn't actually know it was happening until I kind of heard it was getting published, because I think they limited resources on how many folks they actually get to interview. And so what was really validating about that process is like what that means is that my other comics who were interviewed in that article had to have put my name up as a person that was worth mentioning. I thought that was super cool because it's just really validating, a lot of the local comedy process can be, thankless, especially a lot of these producers.
Yeah.
You're working with bars, you're working with venues, you're entertaining drunks a lot of the times. You can grind really hard for limited results. And so what that meant to me was like, hey, there's a lot of people in this scene doing great work, and they think I'm doing great work as well. So I really appreciated that write-up. That was really, really sweet.
That's awesome. And thank you for the text, Anna. Eli, can you stick around through the news for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right. We're going to talk to Eli about the improv scene in Madison, which I know even less about. He just mentioned Atlas Improv, and then he also saw The Brutalist. I want to ask him about that. Yeah. That's all coming up next on Nightlight after Civic Media's award-winning news team tells you what's up. This is Pete Schwaba at Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's too late to turn back now. I believe I'm falling in love. I found myself phoning her at least 10 times a day. It's so unusual for me to...
From Denmark to De Pere, this is 97.9 WGBW. Jane Matt Nair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, Greg Bach is back. We're also going to talk to Abigail Sweats from Fair, Wisconsin, and concerns about the LGBTQ plus community. Don't miss it.
Matt Nair on air, weekday mornings at 10. The Maggie Dawn Show.
Open that conversation with this person that you disagree with so much by trying to find the shared value, the thing that you both actually agree about. Challenge yourself to keep bringing it back to the value that we agree on and maybe even the outcome that we wish to see. Go have the tough conversation, because you know what gets better with practice? Those tough conversations.
The Maggie Dawn Show, weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app. This is 97.9 WGBW Denmark, Green Bay's real news and great conversation, a Civic Media radio station.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports on hold for at least 30 days. The move coming after President Trump talked with the leaders of both countries.
Both countries had vowed to retaliate. In Canada, American sports teams booed during the national anthem. Canadian liquor stores taking American whiskey off the shelves. The Wall Street Journal editorial page calling it, quote, the dumbest trade war in history.
ABC's Rachel Scott. The Senate confirmed fossil fuel exec Chris Wright as energy secretary. Wright's been one of the industry's loudest voices against efforts to fight climate change. Notre Dame announced the death of basketballer John Shumate. He led the Fighting Irish to a 71-70 upset of UCLA in January of 1974, ending the Bruins' record 88-game winning streak. John Shumate was 72. This is ABC News.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. Gas prices have fallen again, both statewide and nationally. Gas Buddy reports an average price for a gallon of gas in Wisconsin is $2.88, down almost 7 cents from last week. Patrick DeHaan at Gas Buddy said tariffs on Canadian energy could significantly impact fuel prices, especially here in the Great Lakes and Midwest regions. Gas prices in Green Bay fell over 9.5 cents from last week, averaging $2.86 a gallon today. In Appleton, prices are down 3.4 cents a gallon to $2.85. Judge Susan Crawford brought her campaign for Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice to Oshkosh and Door County Saturday. Supreme Court justices are supposed to be nonpartisan, but Crawford is considered a liberal and has the backing of state Democrats. Meanwhile, she's calling out the partisan politics of her opponent.
My opponent in this race is somebody who is an extreme partisan and has a long history as an extreme partisan in Wisconsin and is bringing those kind of politics to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and that's not what we need on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We need impartial justice, and that's why I'm in the race.
Crawford faces conservative former Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimmel in the April 1st ballot. With the changing weather and the major temperature fluctuations, remember that no ice is safe ice. Brittany Merlot has the story.
Watch out for weak points, like ice shoves or spots along the shoreline that still have currents running under, or dams, inlets, and outlets. Experts say that ice may be good enough to support you in one place and possibly not in another. So check ice depth frequently. And if you do fall into icy waters, remain calm and attempt all measures to get out safely. Bring an ice pick with you and never go out on the ice alone.
I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News.
Turnovers kill the Bucks. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks lost at home to the Memphis Grizzlies, 132-119. Memphis out-rebounded Milwaukee, 61-36. But that's just half the story. The Bucks let the game slip away in the fourth quarter. Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I mean, you when you get down a stretch of games, in a close game, you got to take care of the ball. You know, it's important to make sure that we get a shot on every possession if you want to win a game, and we can't have turnovers down the stretch of a game.
Memphis has now beat Milwaukee the last 7 times in a row, dating back to January of 2022, and now the Bucks have to play the Thunder tonight in Oklahoma City. In men's speed skating at the Pettit Ice Center in Milwaukee, Eric Stolz with a second-place silver medal in the 500-meter. That snapped the streak of 22 wins in competition. NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles arrived in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. That's coming up this Sunday night. Kickoff at 5:30. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm Lisa Hale with WGBW News. Your news roundup in quick podcast form. You can find it anywhere at the WGBW website, WGBW.FM.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A partly cloudy sky for tonight, lows near 5 to 10. Mostly cloudy for tomorrow, a high in the mid-teens. Mostly cloudy in the morning, then snow developing for Wednesday. Even some freezing rain mixed at times, high near 30. Current temp is 30.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
There are solutions to the rot in the Supreme Court, and it's a congressional binding code of ethics. There are solutions to the corruption. It's a constitutional amendment to declare that money isn't speech and corporations aren't people, and we can do this. These are things that Americans agree on no matter our party. We all know that presidents aren't kings.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekdays from 2 till 4 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey everybody, join us next time as it's Tuesday Tangents with our old friend Luke Mathers. Join us for that and What's Worse.
Broadcasting live statewide from the Civic Media Studios in Green Bay. This is Nite Lite with Pete Schwaba, your inside source on everything entertainment from Wisconsin to Hollywood. And now, a guy who wanted to be in porn but didn't have the acting chops, Pete Schwaba.
Welcome back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are cruising through a Monday night here. Frank Anderson, our old pal, is going to be here at 7:20. We're going to talk about Bob Dylan and cockfighting. I know, yet again, that's quite a combo. But Frank will be here, always fun. Mark from Prairie du Sac says, "Oh, it's encephalitis." Conrad is what we were trying to think of, the mosquito.
Oh, yep, okay.
The mosquito dealio. And Tom from Jackson says, Puxicani Phil out east or in Wisconsin? I asked this because I heard earlier today that one out east showed spring is soon on the way. I think there's only one Punxsutawney Phil because there's only one Punxsutawney. There are probably other groundhogs, but they're all just wannabes. Jim from Appleton says the groundhog in Sun Prairie didn't see his shadow, so only 40 days of winter. We're all kind of saying the same thing. That's a lot. That's like 6 more weeks of winter, 40 days.
Yeah. I trust the Wisconsinite. I'll take that. I like that.
But keep those texts coming. We'll figure this out together, folks. Jim also says, Jim from Kenosha says, sorry, I asked the question. I don't Google. I Schwaba. Oh, that's a rip on my name. A good-natured rip. I think Jim's done that before. He's commenting on what Eli and I were talking about before with our last names. Let us know how you feel about 6 more weeks of winter, folks. That's tonight's question, and we will read your text on the radio. Always great when you guys participate. We have a few more minutes here with our guest, Eli Wills. He's a Madison-based comedian. He also writes about comedy. He produces comedy shows, and he does sketch and improv. Is Atlas improv or sketch and improv?
Atlas is improv. We've done some sketch stuff in the past, but primarily an improv theater. All improv. We're actually celebrating 21 years of improv in Madison this April. We always run a festival, the Endurance Improv Festival, where we do an hour of improv for every year that we've been around. We started the festival 13 hours in, and now it's starting to get ridiculous. So,
oh man. Where is that in Madison? What stage do you guys have? Do you have your own space?
Yeah, we've got our own space, 609 East Washington. We always joke it's tucked right in next to the 5-star Korean barbecue place. So if you've seen the 5-star Korean barbecue place, that's it. We're right next door. You can smell it. We share a door. So dinner and a show is the advertisement right there.
Sounds like a great night to me. Yeah, I love Korean barbecue. So what do you prefer? Do you like improv or stand-up? What was harder to learn, Eli?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I started with improv, and I think, people go different ways at it, where it's like I started with improv because I was like, if I pay for a class, they have to let me on stage. That was kind of like my logic of like, they can't deny me if I've given a service. But I like them both. Improv to me is a great way to just kind of get out of your head and start getting silly with it. I think stand up, when you get so fixated on the writing and the jokes and the punchlines, you can, whenever I'm feeling rigid with that aspect of stand up, I go and do more improv so that I can, kind of break out of that mold and go be a little sillier and get out of my head of start thinking so much. One of the stand-up comics I really like, a Chicago guy, Chris Higgins, he said this to me once. He was like, you got to get rid of the notion that you look cool up there. Stop trying to look cool up there.
Oh,
and
nice.
Improv is a way that I go up there to be like, hey man, I'm pretending to be a goat or something right now. It's like, I'm not, there's nothing, it may be entertaining, but there's nothing cool about this for sure.
Does your improv help your stand-up more, or does stand-up help your improv? Do they both help each other? And if so, which one helps more?
I think they both help each other. I think my improv helps my stand-up tremendously. A lot of stand-ups kind of stick their nose up at improv, but I think it gives you a skill set of being comfortable on stage and being able to go with the flow of whatever's happening at any point. Because what I always say, I'll give you a perfect example. The line I always say when you're improvising with a show is like, you have your jokes, but whatever happens during the show is the show. So you can't ignore what's happening in the room when a show is happening. 1 second. Oh crap. Just lost my power cord if you guys heard that, but I'm back. And actually
we didn't even notice. You're fine.
Wouldn't even noted. Okay, perfect. So I was doing a show last month where a speaker actually fell from the ceiling, hit a guy on the head in the audience during my show. And thankfully, he was okay. We didn't know that for the first 3 minutes or so. We wanted to make sure that he was all right before you start making fun of him. But it's a perfect example of what am I going to do? Just go start telling my jokes that I wrote after that happened? We all just experienced this crazy thing that just happened. Let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about the crazy thing that just happened with this speaker falling on hitting on the head. So I ended up just kind of riffing and talking to people in the audience and joking for like 15 minutes on the speaker and the injured guy. And that's all improv. And that's like the way the improv helps my stand-up is when I do a show like that, the ideal version of a stand-up set for me is the audience doesn't know which parts I wrote and which parts I'm coming up with on the spot. I would love to be able to effortlessly go back in between those so that when an audience watches that, they go, oh, how'd you come up with that on the spot? Oh, it's a joke that I've written. Or how did you, have that,
Right.
how did that, make the audience feel so present that everything is happening right now?
Okay, given that you're doing improv and stand-up and writing, obviously, and all the other stuff you're doing, do you have influences that kind of went that same route, like Bob Odenkirk, who did Second City and did stand-up? Like, are there people you kind of hope to model your career after?
Yeah, the one in particular is this guy named Rory Scovel. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but he's got a bunch of Netflix specials, bunch of HBO stuff. And one of the most iconic things he ever did kind of in this realm is he did a show that his first initial special is called Rory Scovel Tries Stand Up for the Very First Time. And of course, you're not supposed to do a special when you've not done it before, but he did this thing where he went up on stage and he was like, I'm going to do an hour of stand up. I'm going to improvise an hour of stand up every night, 7 nights in a row. And I'm going to do it the first night. And then the second night, I'm going to keep the stuff that works and doesn't work. And I'm going to keep the stuff that works and doesn't work. And then let's see if I can just like superpower this. Can I write an hour of stand up that I want to film in a week of just brute forcing it every single week? And what he discovered during that process, he was like, oh, it was more fun to just make stuff up every single night, that he ultimately ended up not using stuff one show from the other, because if you can be so present and do the show as it's intended, you can write stuff and discover that way.
That sounds, it could go two ways.
Yeah.
Like I would watch it and think it was incredibly brilliant, or I'd go, oh God, great experiment, but get me out of this. Like, how did it go?
Ultimately, it worked for him. Well, of course, that's the risk. Like I always say, people are like, you get more nervous doing improv or stand up. It's like, well, improv, if it goes poorly, it's like, what did you expect? I just came up with this right now.
Right.
Stand up, it's more vulnerable because it's like, I was at home at my desk writing this down saying, I bet they'll love this. And then I came in and you hated it. And it's like, all right,
That's
so
great.
it's two different things, but ultimately, he made it work. And I really, just respect that approach. And maybe I just respect that approach because I've got to force myself to write more like everybody else, but
Yeah,
I'd much
and
rather just get
you
up there.
appreciate when people take risks too, or try something different. And that's how I felt about the movie Emilia Perez. I was like, all right, there's a lot going on here, but it was a good swing.
Try something. Yeah.
You said you just took your first trip to LA. Did you get up on stage out there? How did it go?
I did. It's funny. I did kind of the fake thing to grind it out early in the business. I just took 2 weeks. I got some friends out there. I got some couches to stay on. And what I did is I texted everybody I know saying, I'm going to be out here 2 weeks doing shows. Didn't have any shows booked. Would love to do anything else you have on.
Right.
Would love
I might
to do
have a few nights I can still work in. Yeah.
Whatever nights I'll squeeze you in to do whatever you got. Thankfully, it worked out really well. I got connected to some friends. I did a great show. It was After Midnight with Ron Lynch. Was a show at the Elysian Theater, which was super eccentric and super fun. And I got to get up stage and do it. And then it worked out really well. I did a couple of run of shows at this hostel in Santa Monica, where the type of show you get when you're BSing your way onto shows. The guy booked it. He's like, hey man, this is going to be a lot of fun. We do it every week, but it's at this hostel. So like, there will be a big crowd there, but most of them won't speak English. And I'm like, okay, perfect.
I was like, crowd.
Yeah. I'm like, perfect. I can roll with this. Obviously, if you want an experience in, not being able to do your jokes and trying to be entertaining for people, wanting to have a good time, I got them singing, Beverly Hills. I got them singing songs. So it went really well. And then the guy, he was like, hey, we do this, 3 more times while you're in town. So come and do it. So I got to do that hostel show for a bunch of non-native English speakers a bunch of times, which was a blast.
Any stage time helps, right?
Well,
that's great.
Yeah. Well,
Eli
the second time I went back, they spoke English. And I was like, you betrayed me. I was like, I was prepared.
I tailored my set to complete and utter chaos. And
I've been Duolingoing Spanish for the last 3 days trying to be ready for this.
Check out Eli Wills February 13th at the Working Draft Beer Company. He's going to do a show there with a guest we had on the program a couple weeks ago named Alicia Witt. Sounds like a great show. That's February 13th in Madison. Check out his work anywhere. Can they follow you? You got socials, Eli?
Follow me on Instagram. That's the big one. Eli Wills, ELIWILZ, and sillystreetcomedy.com. Sillystreetcomedy.com. That's got the newsletter. Would love. It's useful even if you're not in Madison. So check it out. There's a lot of good comedy on there.
Outstanding. Do you have a review you could give us in 60 seconds or less of The Brutalist?
Very interesting. If I didn't know ahead of time, I would have thought it was a biopic of a real guy. First half sets you up. It's one of those worlds. If you want to be immersed in a world, it will immerse you in the world. Go check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's up for drew a lot of Oscar nominations. I have not seen it yet, so it's interesting. I think you said you were the only one in the theater too.
Yes, I went on a Friday matinee.
must have been a great intermission.
Yeah, I
hanging
was like-
out with with yourself. Just
I know the intermission happened, and I was like, "All right, let's just start it, guys. I'm ready."
yeah, I have this kind of stamina. I can sit for another 2 hours.
Yes.
All right, Eli, great meeting you. Best of luck. Don't be a stranger, and keep us posted, my friend. It was great to meet you.
Hey, great to meet you, Pete. Thanks for having me on the show. Thank you, Conrad, and we will see you all here at Late Night here soon. Night Light real soon. See you guys.
Absolutely. All right, Eli Pills, check him out in Madison, and follow his socials because it's always fun to know where someone is playing when you go check him out. Hey, let's do the Grammy clip from The Simpsons. Okay, so the Grammys were last night, folks. There's a great episode of The Simpsons where Homer wins a Grammy in a barbershop quartet, but he's still depressed, and here is that clip now.
Here's that champagne you ordered, Mr. Simpson.
Oh, thanks. Here.
Wow, an award statue! Oh, it's a Grammy.
Hey, don't throw your garbage down here.
That's Homer. Check out the Barbershop Quartet episode of The Simpsons. Outstanding stuff. All right, when we come back, our pal Frank Anderson will be here. We're going to talk about Bob Dylan and cockfighting. Anywhere in the world, folks, where can you hear that conversation? All within 40 minutes. It's Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Someone's living for their lover, and I love her. I love her.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home for Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
The Todd Alba Show.
The argument from my former party has been, it's not the guns, it's mental health. Well, no worries, folks. Governor Evers has got you covered. He introduced a plan to put millions of dollars into mental health, particularly for young kids. And the Republicans in the chamber did not clap. If you can't be it for kids, then what the heck can you be for? Jeepers criminy.
The Todd Alba Show. Weekdays noon till 2 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Matt Nair on air.
Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political editor.
No court in the country came closer to overturning the 2020 election results than the conservative majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And we have Brad Schimmel, who's been siding with January 6 rioters. So if you want your vote to count going forward, show up and vote on April 1st. Let's channel that energy into the Wisconsin Supreme Court race.
Matt Nair on air. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody.
Through all of fatherhood's first, never stop being a dad. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at Civic.
Says, Pete, have you ever interviewed comedian Mary Mack, who is from Wisconsin? She has a sort of up north comedy style. Yes, Tom, I have. Mary has been on the show, and she is on this Thursday, so very well timed text, my friend. Tune in Thursday night at 6:35. Mary will be making our popcorn pick of the week, and she is always so much fun and absolutely hilarious. So thank you for the text. It's my pleasure now to welcome one of our Nightlight frequent flyer favorites, Mr. Wisconsinology. He knows more about Wisconsin than my pinky. I think I got that wrong, but he'll get it. Frank Anderson joins us now on Nightlight. Frank, how are you?
Wonderful, Pete. What was that? What was my music this time? That was excellent.
That was just for you. That was Bill Haley, and it's called Joey's Song.
Wow.
And that was going to be my first question, Frank, is because I saw that you posted about Bill Haley being great dance music recently on Facebook. And I didn't know if your Joey Song event every year in Madison, or one you partake in, had anything to do with that song or was derived from that song somehow.
No, not at all.
Wow, really?
No, not at all. In fact, it'll be news to them when I forward that song. No, it's a charity for Joey is the son of Mike Gamal. Mike Gamal puts on the charity, and it's for epilepsy. And all the money goes to a specific doctor in Northwestern who's working on a line of a cure. And this year we raised $1 million.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, close. I'm rounding it up.
Still.
But
wow.
Not bad. Yeah. It's a huge music event, just for your listeners. Massive. It's star-studded. It's amazing. It's a week long. It's in Madison. It's the first week in January of every year. And it's grown from starting in a bowling alley where hitmaker Freddie Johnston sang a bunch of tunes with his friends, the know-it-all boyfriends, and they raised a few $100, and all of a sudden it got bigger every year, and this year was the biggest by far. And it was stars galore, including comedy legend, Wisconsin native Joel Hodgson, who has teamed up with Wayne White. You know who that is?
I don't know Wayne White. I know Joel Hodgson, obviously.
Wayne White is a very famous artist. He designed Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh, yeah. I think you've talked about him before, yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah. And so it's like Hodgson and White are it's the new thing Joel's doing. And I'm in everybody's backup band, and I was lucky enough to be in that backup band, which was Hilarity, a night of hilarity. Their premiere of their new act went really well. And that's just one of the many, many things that happens at Joey's Song.
I absolutely love this. I did something on Joey's Song last year, but we had just launched the show, and this year it crept up so fast, and after the holidays it was already gone. So I completely missed it this year, but next year we'll have to do something special for the event, Frank, and maybe you could come back. I'm sure you'll be back before then, but maybe we could do something.
You and Conrad should do a road trip and broadcast from there. The guests, you're going to have stars every night.
Wow. Yeah,
I mean, it's sick. The
I would love to
headliners
do
were
that.
beyond, yeah.
And how did comedy go over? Is this the first year they did comedy, or?
Well, it was a specific comedy night. It was it was done at the High Noon Saloon, which is
Love that
right
name.
near the Sylvie, which is the headquarters of Joey's Song, which is a 2,500 seat venue. And the High Noon Saloon is, I believe, 400 or something like that. And it was packed. It was good. It was the first time these guys had ever done their show. And we rehearsed for it that afternoon for the very first time. And it went without a hitch. It was fantastic. One hitch was the famous Dr. Z couldn't make it. You're familiar with him, right?
Yes, but tell me anyway, because I'm blanking. I know the name. Dr. Z.
Then we're Dana Gould.
Oh, Dana Gould. Dr.
Dana
Z
Gould,
is...
the famous writer of The Simpsons, and
love Dana.
So much more. Yeah, you know Dana.
Sure.
Dana plays Dr. Z on his own show, Hanging with Dr. Z, on YouTube. And everybody look it up, because if you're of a certain age, it's fall-down funny humor. And Dr. Z was supposed to make an appearance, but the L.A. fires coincided with Joey's Song.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. And you mentioned that. I was thinking of someone totally different for Dr. Z. I didn't realize that was Dana's character, but he is he is hilarious. And his social media posts are so, just stinging and funny. He's brilliant. And it's no surprise to me that he ended up writing for The Simpsons. Always liked Dana Gould.
Well, he'll be back on board with Hodgson and White.
Okay.
And we're doing a four-nighter in Chicago. Dates yet to be named.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Any idea when that'll be, Frank?
They're talking about the fall.
Okay.
And then they're talking about a lot more than that, and I'm not allowed to say again.
Okay. You just mentioned one of many backup bands I'm in. Literally, the movie 20 Feet from Stardom could have been you, except you're kind of a star in your own right. But still, you've played with some amazing people. You must just be
Yes, I
so
have.
in your element when you're at Joey's song.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's like being in my living room.
So I'm going to ask you, we'll do the news, then we'll come back and dive deeper into this. But have you ever played with the legendary Bob Dylan?
No, I have not.
Okay. I know you're not that.
I have
You're
not.
not that
I
old.
heard. I know steel players who have.
Yeah.
And I've heard. I mean, you've got to be tough to head out on that tour, because it is. It's named the Never-Ending Tour, and it's constant playing.
Right.
And if you can take that kind of dislocation, which touring brings, you got to be a tough person to handle that.
I think you're pretty tough, Frank. But we'll do
I
the
don't know.
news. we'll do the news, and then we'll come back. We're going to have a little talk about Bob Dylan, because I love the movie A Complete Unknown. You haven't seen it yet, but you can educate us a little bit on Bob Dylan. I know the basics, but I'm looking forward to that. And then we'll talk cockfighting. That's a segment right there, folks. That's radio at its finest, and we're going to do it all on the other side of the news with our pal Frank Anderson. Pete Schwaba and Nightlight on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Come together. Use a little more, and we will make it work out better.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 97.9 WGBW News, I'm Lisa Hale. The snow and cold weather notwithstanding, road construction season is officially underway in northeast Wisconsin, beginning with closures, traffic impacts, and more on Interstate 41 between Appleton and De Pere. The WIS 15 County 00 Northland Avenue Bridge over the interstate is closed and will remain closed until fall. When completed, the new interchange at that location will be the second diverging diamond interchange in northeast Wisconsin. The first opened in 2018 with the WIS 441 Oneida Street interchange in Winnebago and Calumet counties. For current traffic impacts of road construction projects, visit 511wi.gov. A 26-year-old Oconto woman died Sunday in a car versus snowplow accident on US 41 near Frog Pond Road. The Wisconsin State Patrol says Sarah M. Yedniak was driving her car when she lost control of the vehicle and ended up crashing into the rear of a snowplow. Yedniak died from her injuries. The operator of the snowplow, a 50-year-old Oconto man, was uninjured. State police are still investigating the crash. Well, Minnesota came out on top over Wisconsin. The Democratic National Committee elected Minnesota's Ken Martin as the new chair of the party. He defeated Wisconsin's Ben Wickler, who was also in the running for the top party gig in a closely watched election. Wickler had secured endorsements from Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and several state governors. WGBW has an e-newsletter that comes out twice a week, and it is filled with stories you care about from the greater Green Bay area. Subscribe today at WGBW.FM. I'm Lisa Hale, 97.9 WGBW News. For news anytime, log on to WGBW.FM.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The Oscars are just 4 weeks away, and if you missed some of the Best Picture nominees the first time around or don't have access to the films in theaters, don't despair. The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, I'm Still Here, and Nickel Boys are unavailable to stream at the moment, but the rest of the nominees are available to watch in the comfort of your own home. Honora, Wicked, and The Substance are all on pay-per-view for anywhere from $4 to $20. 20 big ones might sound like a lot, but oftentimes is cheaper than actually going to the theater. The following potential Best Pick winners are free if you have the appropriate platforms: Conclave is on Peacock. You can catch A Real Pain on Hulu, and Amelia Perez is available on Netflix. Check them out. It will make watching the Oscars more fun. And at those prices, you can't afford not to be a couch potato. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A partly cloudy sky for tonight, lows near 5 to 10. Mostly cloudy for tomorrow, a high in the mid-teens. Mostly cloudy in the morning, then snow developing for Wednesday. Even some freezing rain mixed at times, high near 30. Current temp is 30.
Hey, it's Amanda with your new Wisco 411, and who's ready to jump into an icy cold lake? Come on, it sounds like fun, right? A polar plunge is a Wisconsin rite of passage, and one's coming up sooner than you think. February 22nd at Prokopsky Boat Launch in De Pere. You can join a bunch of other brave and exciting souls who are ready to take the plunge, supporting more than 1,400 athletes of Special Olympics Wisconsin. Go ahead and register now. Go to WGBW.FM, click events to find out how.
Hey, it's John Mino and Jim Schmidt from Mino and the Mayor. Want to stay in the loop with all things Northeast Wisconsin? Sign up for the WGBW weekly newsletter.
Get the latest local stories, updates on the weather, and a special feature from our Mino and the Mayor podcast.
It's your one-stop shop for real news and great conversation in Northeast Wisconsin.
Log on to WGBW.FM today and get signed up.
Real news, great conversation. Sign up today at WGBW.FM/newsletter. Rational Revolution with Mark Becker.
Join me this week as we talk to my friend and national figure Adam Kinzinger in what will be certain to be an incredible conversation.
Rational Revolution with Mark Becker, Saturdays at 2, Sundays at 1 on your local Civic.
The course is right. I need to find an answer on the road. I used to be a
Tomorrow
hard
night on Nightlight, WGBW rock star Nikki Zerjev will be here. Nikki's always fun to have on the show. And treasure hunter Bill Blackwell. With a name like Blackwell, you pretty much have to hunt treasure. That's tomorrow night on Nightlight. Right now, we are in the throes of a conversation with one of my favorite guests, Frank Anderson. He's the founder of Wisconsinology.com. Check it out. It's all things Wisconsin, from the interesting, the weird, the funny, to the just plain downright fascinating Wisconsinology.com. Frank is also a musician, producer, director, kind of a showbiz renaissance man. That's what I call you, Frank. It's great to have you here. So I wanted to ask you.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Bob Dylan. I was kind of after his, my aunts and uncles growing up always talked about Bob Dylan. I know a lot of people think he's the greatest songwriter in the history of America, certainly in rock music, pop music, folk music, whatever. Where do you rank Dylan in terms of his greatness? And, the movie, A Complete Unknown, I know you haven't seen it, Frank, but it's about basically when he went from the acoustic guitar to the electric guitar. I want to know if you have thoughts on that, and just kind of, I wanted to get your thoughts on him because you've played with everybody.
Well, I agree. He's our greatest. It's hard to nail him down. He's such a chameleon. And my favorite thing about Bob Dylan is that he's a contrarian, and he's a contrarian's contrarian. And at his heart, his basic Bob Dylan-ness, he's just about being an entertainer. When he says, he always answered people, "I'm a song and dance man," and they thought he was joking, but he means it. And it's true. He loves the history of music in America, and he's written some of the greatest songs. He won't admit to that, but he's always been business savvy with all his songs. He was the first composer of the rock era to sell his music to Muzak.
Oh,
in
really?
1970.
Wow.
Yeah. A Bob Dylan song called Wigwam was sold, and it's officially the first ever from that era. And that was a big no-no, right? Muzak is the music of the man, meant to tame the masses.
Yeah.
Calm down, don't revolt. But But he's that way. I love his contrarianness, and I've always loved his music. And for different generations, they all see a different Bob Dylan. And for younger people, younger than me, people's 30s, 40s, his greatest album is Blood on the Tracks, which is rather, a later album for him. For us, the older ones, ones who were, I'm certainly not of the folk generation that first heard Bob strumming away and, singing Blowing in the Wind. I saw that on TV, but not for real. For me, it's the Blonde on Blonde Nashville Skyline era, when he basically became one of the first, if not the first, to go to Nashville, from the rock era, went to Nashville. And that was dangerous back then. If you were long hair or any association with counterculture, and they knew where your motel was, you're in trouble. It was not easy. It was a pretty gutsy move, but he did get a haircut before he went, and foresight, right?
Yeah.
But what do you want? What do you want? I love Bob Dylan.
Well, there's some great scenes in the film between Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan, and they were pen pals, I guess. And Johnny Cash,
they were great friends.
Yeah.
And Johnny knew that Bob was a real American, true blue original, and Bob always knew that Johnny was a true blue original and way more a folk singer than he was a country singer.
Here's what I found fascinating, and I didn't realize this. I went to see the film with my parents, who are about Bob Dylan's age, and they didn't really listen to him when he first kind of started his music career. But the film starts with him going to see Woody Guthrie when he's 19. He just gets to New York, and he goes to see Woody Guthrie and plays this song for him. And, it's so subjective. You could say this person's the greatest songwriter ever, this person, whatever. But Bob Dylan at 19 and at such a young age to write Blowin' in the Wind, it blows my mind, Frank. I don't know if he was 19 when he wrote it, but I assume it was written shortly after he got to New York because he left Minnesota or wherever he had come from,
Oh, are you ready for the Wisconsinology Bob Dylan?
Yes.
Fact?
I knew you'd bring it back to
the
that.
The place he left to go to New York City on that fateful trip was Madison, Wisconsin.
Wow. Please explain.
There's not much to it. He's hanging out with friends, crashing at an apartment, but that's where he took the bus,
no kidding.
The final leg of his journey. And he did write, have you had Trapper Shep on your show?
You know what? I have not. And I think we swapped an email, and it just hasn't worked out yet, but thank you for reminding me. I got to reach out.
You should have. For your listeners, Bob wrote a song he never recorded called On Wisconsin.
Yes.
And it is really... I nearly broke down in tears. It's like he's honoring this state like more than the song On Wisconsin, the one we all know.
I've heard that song. Yeah, it's a great song. I actually have heard that.
He really loves being in Wisconsin. So, Trapper Shep recorded it, put music to Bob's words, and is the only co-written song with Bob Dylan ever.
That is really cool. It's funny too. I did stand up in Hibbing, Minnesota, and I was like 23. I was very young when I went on the road, and I was like, "Oh, Bob Dylan's from here." I was like, "Oh, cool." Like now, I would go, "Where did he grow up? Where did he go to high school? I need to see these places," But I wish I could go.
You know what's interesting? Bob does that himself when he's on the road.
Really?
He'll take the tour bus and go, "We're doing a detour. I want to see Neil Young's hometown. I want to see where he grew up.
Wow.
I want to see where he played." He does that all the time.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, when I think back when I did stand-up and I would go to these different cities, I took advantage of it sometimes, but not nearly as much as I should have. And when you get older, you're more fascinated by history anyway, I think.
And for Bob Dylan, it's pop culture.
Okay.
His famous, he met Val Kilmer for the very first time, and he recited one of Val's famous lines from Tombstone right up to his face. He just wanted to say, what's that famous line? Oh dear,
I'll be a huckleberry.
Same scene later. No. First line. He says to
Johnny
Curly
Ringo.
Bill
Johnny Ringo.
or Ringo. Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like a man crossed over your grave. And he walked right up to Val Kilmer and said that, and Val got all weird and walked away.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and I
awful.
thought that was cool.
I think that's incredibly cool. You know what's cool is I was, looking at some videos today of Dylan and the Byrds. I'm a big fan of the Byrds, and I know they've played together and they covered Mr. Tambourine Man that Dylan wrote. But I think there was a performance. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Frank, but the Byrds with David Crosby, who was an original member, which I didn't know until a couple of years ago. They were playing Mr. Tambourine Man, and Dylan walks out on stage, and the place goes nuts. And it's kind of weird because Dylan looked like he was kind of half singing. And then Roger McGuinn walked over like he kind of wanted to be by Dylan, but Dylan went to David Crosby, and the two of them were singing. It was this weird, dysfunctional.
He's always half singing.
Yeah, what is that? I mean,
Oh, he's a contrarian. If you're on stage and you're going, if you're in 4/4 time, he's gonna do another time. He always does that. Every single clip, he's playing to a different band than you are. If you're on stage.
That's really
I think
funny.
that's funny.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry,
by the way, that's the only other co-write that is claimed, but Bob won't allow that to be claimed, is that he and McGuinn are the co-writers of the Ballad of Easy Rider.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. That doesn't seem
And
like
it kind of is, because Dylan wrote the first line. That's it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I guess he's got a legitimate
Yeah.
beef there.
He's got dibs.
Hey, Frank, I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but before we move on to cockfighting, which we absolutely must, you just said that Dylan sold his catalog to Muzak or whatever, and I and you said that was a big no-no, and I remember being so judgmental when I was younger until I saw an interview with Bob Seger. I think it was on the show CBS This Morning or something, and he was questioned when he sold his song Like a Rock to Chevy. And they said, you took some criticism for that. How do you justify that? You're an artist. And he said, well, here's how. He said, that song with Chevy trucks saved a lot of jobs. And it sold a lot of trucks and saved a lot of jobs. And I just felt like the biggest dope ever, Frank. I'm like, this guy is still of the people. He sold the song for the people. Like, what's better than that, right?
Nothing better.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with the commerce end of it. And once again, Bob Dylan's a pioneer of that.
Yeah, but I guess I don't understand like the activist angle and I guess you're right. Why not cash in? You wrote it. Do what you want with it.
Bob Dylan's folk self contributed to that. I'm not working for the man. That whole attitude that Crosby was just.
Yeah.
Well, he was drug-addled, but everything was about the man and this and that. And then Crosby, who's so much of the people, right, that he went on his 1974 tour with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and demanded that they have monogrammed towels in every hotel they stay at.
Really?
Yeah, David Crosby, his own monogrammed towels. He probably never even used them.
Look, the guy looks like he's never even used a comb.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But they were spending and making money and doing coke like mad on that tour. And, their whole line of whatever purity of youth or the rebellion was clearly over by then.
My guest is Frank Anderson. Check out wisconsinology.com. It's great. We are going to move into the second most popular sport in the world, as I understand it, Frank, cockfighting.
Oh, damn right. Yeah.
I owe all this to you because I saw your Facebook post. It started, you grew up in the Philippines, or part of your childhood, and cockfighting was huge there. And you said your brother owned I still can't say it.
My brother had a fighting cock. Okay, fighting rooster. How about that?
Well, you can look. That's a thing. I mean, we're not doing anything here. It is live radio, but
no, it's cockfighting.
Yeah,
so big in the Philippines. I can't tell you how big it is. It's ridiculous. And we're from the southern Philippines. We born, and my older brother completely raised there. He I would say he's more well, he's buried there. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it's some time ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was the most Filipino of all of us, and he had a fighting cock. And man, his pride in that bird and the excitement of down in the cockpit. That's what they call it, where the birds fight.
Yeah.
The cockpit. And the excitement and everything, and it's so macho.
Yeah, I don't get. That's so funny that it's macho, and the guys that are macho aren't even doing the fighting.
It's macho. You are your bird, and what? Once again, where we're from, which Mindanao, southern Mindanao, Basilan Island, still is so macho.
And it's still legal there.
It's a national sport. You can't. It's like saying, no more football. Hey, America, no more. You come in and say, no more cockfighting. Oh, good luck with that.
Are concussions an issue in cockfighting? I would imagine that.
I don't know if the birds know it. I have no idea.
Oh, man, it's just awful. It's only been illegal here in the States. Reading about this earlier, Louisiana finally outlawed it in 2008, and I'm sure everybody thought their rights were being infringed upon and everything. But
right.
But maybe we'll talk about this after a very short break, too. I might want to ask you, Frank, what you're watching, if you've seen any of the Oscar films, too. So noodle that. Okay. And then if you haven't, that's fine, too. I've got a Wisconsinology story I can bring up. So we'll have more with our pal Frank Anderson on the other side of a very short break. Don't go anywhere. It's a Monday night on Nightlight, folks. We're doing it. Great to have you.
Building towers for side isn't anything at all. Buy the sky and sell the sky and bleed the sky and tell the sky.
You're listening to the Talk of Green Bay, WGBW, home of Mino and the Mayor.
Between all the holiday parties,
weekend tailgates,
and family get-togethers,
we've been overindulging a little more than usual over the holidays. But now, we are starting the new year off on a healthier note by taking Active Liver supplements from New Nordic every day.
Active Liver contains a powerful blend of turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract, all natural ingredients that help protect the liver so that it can protect you from toxins. It's like giving my body a daily detox. I've never felt better, and my energy is through the roof.
And my doctor is already impressed with how much better my numbers are looking. So if better health, more energy, and detoxing your body are some of your priorities this year, get Active Liver today and start the year off knowing you're giving your liver some well-deserved relief.
Active Liver is available in both tablets and as a delicious gummy. You can find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
Hey, it's me time at Chula Vista. Time for you to pamper yourself. Wisconsin's most complete resort experience has everything you want. Fine-tuned for 70 years by 4 generations of the Kaminsky family. Chula Vista can be easygoing with colorful scenic river walks, 18 holes of classic golf, a relaxing spa. Or you can go all out in 80,000 square feet of indoor water park. Ziplining through canyon views in Chula's Aerial Adventure Park. And dining comes any way you like it, from pizza to Wisconsin's #1 ranked steakhouse. More than 600 guest rooms to choose from, with $10 million in updates. Chula Vista, everything you've been wanting, all right here on site. Check it out at chulavistaresort.com.
Miles and miles of freshly groomed cross-country and hiking trails, ski.
Honey, you are my shining star. Don't you go away. Oh, baby.
Just in case you guys are wondering, Frank mentioned it would be like taking the Super Bowl away or football away in America. In Manila, the World Slasher Cup, that's what it's called, is the Super Bowl of cockfighting. So that was actually a pretty good analogy, Frank. World Slasher Cup, that's so horrible.
It goes back 3,000 years.
It's nuts. Are the commercials just as bad during the World Slasher Bowl?
I have not seen them.
Okay.
Although I might do it this year.
Frank, what? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. My brother was a lot more macho than me.
You have kind of a quiet macho to you. I sense that if you scratch the surface, you'll see a burgeoning macho individual in you. You come across as this jovial guy, but I know there's a fire burning below.
Well, back in the Philippines, everybody wanted to be Charlie Bronson.
Oh, that's great.
That was a real compliment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
My guest is Frank Anderson. Check out Wisconsinology.com. We always have fun talking to Frank here about various stories from Wisconsinology. Before we get to that, Frank, and maybe we won't have time, I don't know, but have you seen any of the Oscar films?
I've seen Wicked.
Okay. What'd you think?
I don't. Well, I saw the play. I really liked it. The movie's good as long as you know what it looked. It looked like they filmed it at the Universal theme park Wicked set. I mean, I enjoyed it. Kids love it. Families love it. The whole world loves it. But when I look at it, it looked like they built the sets so that they could immediately take them apart and move them to Universal Florida, for the Wicked ride. And that bugged me a little. But I thought the movie was great as long as people were flying and doing aerial work. And there was, a lot of stunt work going on. Kind of dragged when they got down to just emoting.
Talking, yeah. It's interesting you say that because I agree with you. I didn't think of it then, but they did actually shoot at locations. I mean, that's what I think makes this, it's part of the spectacle is all the minutia and all the detail that went into all that from the director. So it's funny you say that.
Well,
I don't think he'd like to hear that.
It's a fascinating franchise to have a work, The Wizard of Oz, which is out of copyright, right?
Yeah.
But that's not your franchise. Your franchise is the reimagining of it, which only dates back to 1994. So incredible. Universal has this thing that's going to be paying out like mad for the next 100 years.
Are you watching anything, Frank? Binge watching anything you could recommend?
There's nothing on.
Come on. Seriously?
Name some stuff. I've seen everything. Name something that's new and fresh and happening right now.
Well, I liked Black Doves.
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Write that one down.
Have you seen any of the Taylor Sheridan shows? And if so, have you liked any of them?
I liked it initially. Yellowstone I did initially.
Same.
And it kind of jumped the tracks.
Somewhere in season 2. Yeah, I turned it off. Yeah.
And I thought it was great breath of fresh air,
Yeah.
I love rural stuff like that. And I was a ranch hand once, long ago.
What?
I was a shit shoveler, and I loved it. I just loved it. And then it got off, and then 1920. Was it 1923? Is that the one with Harrison Ford?
Yes, I like that one a lot actually, and 1883. I like both the prequels.
Oh, that one. Yes. Are there any more?
Another season of 1923 is coming out. Hey, have you seen Green and Gold? Because the guy from 1923, Brandon Sklenar, is in Green and Gold, the movie about the Packers that just was released last week.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I know who worked on it.
Yeah.
But I have not seen it. I don't know what I saw the word love. You know what I'm getting at. Labor of love. Love letter to Wisconsin. And you know what that does to me. But I've not seen it, so I have no way of knowing it.
I think as long as it's not the filmmakers saying that, I can get past it. I understand your beef. But I think it might be critics that say that. But
well, it might be cool. I mean, it's about a farmer, right? A local guy. It's not about, let's say, a young man or woman who goes to the big city, strikes out, swears he'll never return to their hometown, and what happens?
He goes back to find love. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was right there in front of him all along, Frank.
And the real meaning of life.
That's right. Hey, this is always fun. Thank you so much, buddy, for your time. Let's do it again soon. I got a whole bunch of stuff we didn't even get to, but we'll do that.
We'll do that. Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Underwater Necropolis. Remind me of that. We'll do that next time because that's on Wisconsin.
Oh, we have to do that.
I love that one. Okay, buddy. Thanks so much, Frank,
Okay.
and talk to you soon. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, that's Frankie Anderson. Check out wisconsinology.com if you haven't already. It's one of those sites, folks. If you love Wisconsin, you could get lost in it. And even if you don't like Wisconsin, there's just really interesting, fascinating stories. So, what are you telling me? Are you saying we're number one, Conrad, or we have 1 minute left?
No, we're number one.
Can you do that in a big Packer foam finger? If you
Sure.
We're number one. Or
Yeah, there we go.
All right, we got a great show tomorrow. As I mentioned, Nikki Zerjov will be here in studio. Always so much fun to have. Do we know if Nikki's coming in?
Yeah, she should be
I
coming.
think she's coming in,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And then we'll talk to Bill Blackwell, treasure hunter, first treasure hunter we've had on Nightlight. He's coming in tomorrow at 7:35. He's not coming in. He'll be here via the stream at 7:35. Thank you for oh, we have a Steady Eddie text I got to get to.
We have about 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Pete, Punxsutawney Phil, don't believe nothing he says. He's a shill for snow, ice, and chill. Forget about him. That crooked rodent on the streets of brotherly love, he's known as a whistle pig. I wouldn't trust him if I were you, Pete, because he's either going to squeal or put you on ice and snow. I hear he runs cold and shady underground crime syndicate with a maze of tunnels and connections that run from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh to Scranton. Go with Jimmy the Groundhog from sunny Spring Lake, Sun Prairie. Jimmy the Groundhog, if you play your cards right, Pete, he might just give you a little love and then a little. Steady Eddie will finish this tomorrow. We got to go. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry we ran out of time. Good night, Wisconsin.